Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Playing Crazy. Today, we're gonna be continuing our Seaplane, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna be adding the tail gunner, the belly gunner, the torpedoes, and maybe some other details as well on the exterior of the pod. But I'm not quite sure what it is yet. So, without further ado, let's get straight to the video. Let's go. Not sure how I would go about doing this, but I think up here is like a good section for both the belly gunner and the tail gunner, so let's see. Starting with the tail gunner, I first did the usual block compressing to squeeze everything into the limited space I had in the back because I didn't have a lot at all, as you can see on the screen. With the gunner fit nicely in there, it looks pretty nice. I then started moving on to the process of making the gun. They look ridiculously long right now, but that's just a placeholder. I'm definitely not keeping them that long. I just wanted to get the position sorted out first before making them the proper length. Then I started working on the plating. I mostly focus on the sides to cover up the ugly bits of the tail and close up all the gaps. I was going for more of like a cylindrical shape here, so it blends into the tail better instead of looking too blocky. I also spent a bit of time making sure everything lined up nicely with the rest of the tail. It's one of those things you don't really notice when it's done right, but it makes the whole thing look a lot cleaner. Even though you don't see it once I actually put the roof into it. For the top turret, the first thing I had to do was to level everything out since practically most of the tail is slightly slanted. Once I had a flat base to work with, I decided to make it a twin barrel turret. After that, I spent some time tweaking the guns so they wouldn't get caught in the fuselage every time they move. At the same time, I wanted to make it so it can actually aim 90 degrees upward. Since this turret is eventually going to be retractable and I wanted to have a decent like elevation when it's deployed. Once I was happy with that, I started working on the retracting mechanism itself. I use piston facing down so that when I press forward, the whole turret goes down into the fuselage instead of sitting exposed all the time. Later on, I'll add a hatch over the top so when it's retracted, the opening closes up completely and the turret is hidden away. After that, I went back to working on the tail gunner to finish up the overall shape, especially on the roof. I also wanted to like make it able to close itself so it's not exposed. Basically the same thing like the top turret, where if you aim the guns all the way up, the entire turret closes itself off instead of leaving the inside exposed. Once I got that working, I added a hatch over the top. That way I can still get in and get out, and hopefully that is gonna work mid-flight because obviously if you just jump out, I think you're just gonna get carried by the wind and fall to your death. But hopefully that's not gonna be the case. Here, I went to PvP mode and tested out all the guns, making sure all of them work the way I want it to be. I made sure the top turret doesn't get stuck all the time, and also the gunner also still works. Here, you can see me adding the hatch for the top turret. This was honestly one of the more satisfying parts to build because everything ended up lining up way better than I expected. After that, I went back to the tail gunner again and added some extra plating underneath the guns so that when the guns aim straight up, it will basically act like a door. So once you aim it up, it's gonna close everything like there was never a tail gunner there, which I think is pretty cool. Okay, so now the torpedoes. Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna do torpedoes tomorrow. I took too long making this thing, so I'll see you in the next day. Alright, welcome back. This is day 2 of making the weapons, and let's do the torpedoes this time. Hopefully this time won't take long, hopefully. Get it compressed. Actually, I want to try something new. Like, this is a method that I don't know how to use. So it's basically angle compressing. I don't know what's the name of it, but it basically pulls the whole thing that way. Did it do that? It did. So now we just need to extend, like we did. Yes, that's perfect. Just like how it was. Alright, hang on. Somebody's calling me. Alright, so now we're on to the torpedoes. I wanted to do something a little different here. One thing I've noticed with most torpedoes in Playing Crazy, at least the ones I've seen, is that when they detonate, all the explosive, all the TNT explode outside the hull of the enemy ship. That means a lot of the explosion gets wasted instead of actually damaging the internal hull of the target. So I've come up with an idea. I'm making a torpedo that anchors itself as soon as it hits the ship. Once it's anchored, it's gonna push all the TNT slash explosive a couple of blocks deeper into the hull before releasing and pressing a button to detonate everything. In theory, that should let way more of the explosion happen inside the ship instead of outside of it. The only downside is the keybinds. I originally planned to have 6 torpedoes like I mentioned in the previous videos, but I pretty quickly realized that that's really impossible because each torpedo needs like 4 buttons, which is to release it, then to anchor it, and also push all the TNTs at the same time. And then the third button is to disconnect all the explosive. And then the fourth one is to actually detonate it, which uh, probably needed because I'm worried that the TNT is not gonna explode once it's inside the enemy ship. With 6 torpedoes, it's probably a little bit too much keybinds, you know? What's that, like 6 times 4? 34? 34 of fucking keybinds, that's just ridiculous, so I ended up just deciding to only have 4 torpedoes. That's still a lot of buttons, but at least it still fits in my keyboard, so I guess that's alright. Okay, that should be it for that one. See if both of them works. Let's launch this. There you go. Activate it. Activate. Doesn't activate, okay. Alright. Now we can launch this. So, and then the other one. Okay. This is the couple more hours. I've done the other side, and I also fixed the floaty problem. I had a lot of problems with the floaty. So it turns out if you actually like a floaty that is unpowered per se, like this one, it actually works fine. But if you use the powered version, I don't know if it's still not gonna work, but the problem I had was it kept on bouncing like crazy. So let me just show you. It might not show it here, but in PvP server, public server, any other server that is laggy, you kind of bounce a lot, like this. Sometimes you gotta wait, but sometimes you wait forever and still doesn't work. But thankfully though, I think in private server it's gonna work. Yeah, less bouncy. It was definitely more bouncy on the public server, so to accommodate for that, we're just gonna unpower that and use a button to hopefully make the floaty adapt to the overall water environment. Actually, I don't know. That just sounded cool. So we just do that, press the button to inflate the floaty, and for whatever reason, it works at that. Alright, and now we can take off, and hopefully all four of these works the way they should. Take off. Take off, you fat ass. Dang it. Okay. It can take off. It just needs not a lot of runway. Okay, so we should have the dock here. We shoot the left one. Yeah. And we can still control the planes while it's flying. Deactivate the control surfaces so we don't fuck up everything. And we hit a ship, penetrate, boom, and explode that. And that's just how it's gonna be for all the other torpedoes. Each torpedoes requires 4 buttons, so in total all this is 16 buttons to actually to operate. Let's fire the far right torpedoes now. Alright. Just this button, I think. There we go. And as always, we could always just switch to the plane and control plane from the sky. We can still see the torpedoes penetrate, and then press that, and it exploded. There you go. We're just gonna launch a few more torpedoes to check out if it actually works. So yeah, I just test it out. We gotta make sure everything works the way it should. Sometimes things just you forgot to change a few stuff, and things you don't want to happen actually happens. And there you go. As always, we also have our pop-up turrets, the back ones and the 361. So it's fully concealed. I mean, not fully. There's still a little bit of a hole, but I'm sure people won't notice it. And we could shoot individual one. If you want to just shoot the tail, we could do that. And we could pop out the other turret like this, and we can also shoot this one individually. We could also use both of them if we want. If we have 2 enemies on our 6, just use both of them. And we could go to first person as well. And I think I'm gonna add a scope to this. I'm not sure, but I don't think it's gonna be on actual on YouTube, because usually most of the building I do in this game is just a bunch of trial and error, so it shouldn't be much recorded at all, I don't think. And then when we're done with this turret and we're done with the other turret, we can close them, put that back in like that, and then there you go. We're finished with our mission. Now we're ready for a water landing. Put down the pontoons, and yeah, that's all for the weaponry, I think. I also swap out the controls for mouse control. I mean, that was kind of all the original idea, but oh well. so it's a little bit more precise, and I actually can do a smoother landing. So let's see how smooth this one's gonna be. There you go. Smooth touchdown. Turn off the engine, rudder a little bit to the left. There you go. Turn off the engine, come on. Bam. And we just sit nicely on the water now. No more floaty issues because we already found the problems. If you guys are having problem with the floaty, yeah, you just did what I did there. Turn off the floaty, let it adapt to the ocean environment, and you manually inflate it with your buttons, and that's how you fix the floaty. And it turns out you don't need two, you just need one floaty and it just works the same. Okay, next episode I think we're gonna do some of the interior. What else? Maybe I'm gonna see if I can actually add landing gear on side and bottom somewhere here. So yeah, we'll see about that. Maybe that's gonna be a second variant. Maybe like this the alpha version. There's gonna be a Bravo version where it has landing gears and maybe better engines and stuff, and perhaps bombs as well. Extra bombs, that would be nice. So yeah, I think that's gonna be it for today's episode. So as I was about to say, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Goodbye.